بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I seek refuge in Allah, in our Creator, from the accursed Satan, and I begin with his name as well. Inshallah, today we're going to talk about the creation of the universe. I know this topic is very big. We're talking about the universe, but inshallah we'll have a specific part of it that we're going to discuss. First of all, I would like to lay down the purpose of this subject. The only reason we're discussing the creation of the universe is nothing but to know a little bit more about our Creator, about Allah. The reason that's important, why we should discuss these subjects, it is to know the value of things that we see in our daily lives. Inshallah, that will add a little bit more to our understanding of who is our Creator. And through everything that He has created is how we can know Him. Because knowing Him directly is impossible. There is no brain, there is no creature in this universe that will ever understand Him. But what we can do is by seeing His creation, we can understand, have an idea of what He could be. So inshallah, we're going to jump right to the topic. So the universe, before we talk about the creation of the universe from the eyes of the Quran, because we discussed the Quran last week, before we talk about from the eyes of the Quran or the religion of Islam, I would like to first jump into the subject of science. Because before we start this subject, a lot of us, we might have already heard certain theories, certain ideas. So the idea of the creation of the universe, it starts right now in a scientific term. Usually you might have heard the Big Bang Theory. It's very famous. They're starting to teach those in schools, universities. So a lot of kids know this these days. When we were kids, maybe we didn't hear it, but now kids hear about it all the time. So what is this Big Bang Theory? Big Bang Theory is a theory that was actually originated sometime in the late 1800s. Somebody came up with the idea of Big Bang Theory. What their idea was that the universe started from a very small amount of particle. He couldn't explain what that particle was. He just said it could have been light, it could have been energy, but something. Something could have triggered this little particle to expand. And the reason he said that is because they had observed in the sky that a lot of the stars, the galaxies, the moons from other planets and stars, they were moving away from each other. So from that, they came up with the theory that if things are moving away from each other, that means that they started from a central point. That's why they're moving away right now. So they must have been close to each other at one time. And so that theory, Big Bang Theory, goes with that. So the information that we're going to bring today is from the Quran, and this information was actually revealed about 1,200 years, roughly 1,200 years before Big Bang Theory was ever introduced as a scientific subject. So now let's see what is the information that's contained in the Quran. In the Quran, there's a specific ayah. It is actually in chapter 21, Surah 21. The surah is called Surah Anbiya, which means the chapter of prophets, but it's mainly in 30. The verse says, it's asking a question. God is posing a question to humankind. It says, don't the disbelievers know that at one time the sky and the earth were one and we made it split? So there's one verse there that talks about this. Then in the Quran, as we talked about last week, there's specific authorities who define these things more to us, who explain them in further detail. And the main person who explained this to us is the last prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his entire family. The day he was born, the day he was martyred, and the day he will be resurrected. So, from him and his family, his progeny, they explain this further to us. So now we're going to go in that explanation. And inshallah, bear with me, because there's a lot of deep information here, but we're going to go over how the universe was created. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, God, when he was, there was nothing. Nothing that the mind cannot even conceive. Our brain cannot even understand nothingness, because we're in a world that is filled with something. We think of something, either time, space, matter, something. To think that there is nothingness is almost, it's impossible for the brain to think about. But that's how it was. There was nothingness. And then our creator God, Allah, decided to create. Now pay very close attention to how that creation was. He created without experiments. He didn't need to experiment. He didn't need to test things. Will this work? Will this not work? He knew the details of everything before they were created. The first three things God created were matter, time, and space. Matter was created because God, our creator, wanted to form things, many things from it. But God created it within space. So God created space. So this matter can be pushed around to form different things. Now that the space and matter was created, God designated time. So God created time. Time means evolution. Time means change. God designated change for the matter and space, because God wanted a change to be repetitive and coming. God did not want things to be still. God wanted things to be moving. So these three things were created: matter, space, and time. When this matter was created, this matter was split in three things: solid, gas, and liquid, just like we study in our science classes these days. Matter was created in that way. God made a force, created a force to split this matter in this space. And that force was wind, a very high velocity wind. This wind pushed the matter through space, and time was created as it was pushing it. So this space kept expanding, and matter kept expanding and forming. Matter initially was just gas and liquid and solid. As the wind was pushing it, it kept pushing these matters in different corners of the world. And the world was created, the universe. But this was not random. God had a plan, had a specific plan of where everything is going to be situated. Galaxies, moons, stars, our planet, Earth. Everything was pre-planned. And this kept expanding. And during this expansion, the materials kept changing the way God wanted it to. This matter that we're talking about, like, we know what space is, space. We know what time is, the change in time. But matter, what was this matter? It was atoms. Atom, today science has discovered that atom is one of the smallest things that we can experience, that we can see, that we can observe. So what God did is the entire matter was atoms. God shifted the form of atoms. So when atoms get into the quantity and formation, how it gets attached to each other, it creates a different shape. So for example, a human being and a tree. A tree and a human being are made of the same atom. The reason we are different in terms of physical body and the tree is different in physical body is the way atoms are attached to each other. So that is how things change. So that was the design of how God, Allah, started the universe. So as the universe was expanding, galaxies were formed. Galaxies were formed and pushed until to the point where God made it ready for other creation. At this part of creation, multiple questions come up. Questions come up about when God created this, did he use energy? This is a question that a lot of times comes in mind. God did this without losing energy. God created without using the energy of his planning, the energy through his thoughts, the energy through anything. Nothing was lost. He created without giving anything away. This is something that's beyond perception. And this is what our Creator is like. Perception, no matter how much we think about what kind of being would that be where they would give and give and give and nothing would be lessened. And they would work and do and do and do and do, and there would be no tiredness, no exhaustion. This was how the universe was created. And the Big Bang Theory is an observation of it. Unfortunately, the Quran is not tapped in as a resource where science should actually start their ideas from. Unfortunately, because of certain problems with outreach, certain problems with the way, unfortunately, societies have become, it is hard for this message to spread in a scientific way. If it had, it would have given science a much easier leap into that subject and a start that was 1,200 years before it was started. So imagine if this information was picked by science in a massive way and it was worked on to observe more and more 1,200 years before the 1890s where the Big Bang Theory was thought about, or I guess they say invented that theory. So it would have made a huge change, but it's okay because we still have time. There are more details about this that we know. So when we think about this universe, still, everything that was made at that time, galaxies, stars, moons, suns, our planet, Earth, still nothing is holding them. They still don't have a pillar attached to something else holding them. Nothing is holding these. Within our system, for example, when we talk about Earth and Moon, we talk about gravity, we talk about the Moon and the Earth holding each other, and we talk about other planets kind of having an energy where they keep each other a little distance from the sun or from themselves. But still, when you get out of that system, that galaxy, let's talk about a galaxy now. That galaxy is not standing on anything. It is on its own in the open sky, on its own. Nothing is holding it except the Creator that created it. And this is something to think about. This is not a subject where we would necessarily only read about or study. This is something that you would read about, study, but maybe ponder upon this. Ponder upon this, that all these things are holding themselves with just the will of our Creator, the will of God. And this gives us, it should give us a more denser picture of our Creator. We will never be able to see who He really is, exactly how He is, because we can't. We don't have that capacity. But this knowledge, as we go through these gatherings, this should get us a little closer and closer to his being, to how he does things, why he does things, how he does things. Now, all of this was created. Another question that comes up to mind is why? This is probably a question that at the end, once you hear this, that question might come up, why did God even choose that? Before time, space, and matter existed, why did God choose to do that? Why did God want to create the sky and the earth and the layers, the ozones, the gases, stars that explode over time, so many intricacies in the sky? Why? This is because Allah, God, was a hidden treasure, as we discussed this in our previous gathering as well. Allah was a hidden treasure, and Allah wanted to give. Allah wanted to give. One of the first things that the way he introduces himself in the Quran, he says he is merciful. He is merciful. So Allah is full of mercy, a mercy that no matter how much he gives, it never shrinks. It never goes away. He has abundance of it, no matter how much he gives. So out of that mercy, Allah decided to create so he can put his mercy on it. And in that creation, our first step of that creation was the universe. Allah had to form, for his plan, he decided to form a universe, basically a bubble of space, time, and matter. Within this space, time, and matter, Allah wants to put and shower and rain his mercy on. And the more we go now in creation, the more we will see how he's going to pour and make his mercy rain. Because it's Allah's way that he wants to give. That's what he wants to do. He just wants to give. And inshallah, when we go more, we'll deep dive in that. One last question that comes up that we'll discuss, and then we'll stop here. One last question is, so now that Allah has created this space within this bubble, however big that bubble is, where is Allah? Is he inside this bubble? This universe, right? Because Allah created the universe. There was no universe. Is he inside this universe? Or is he outside the universe? Is he looking at the universe from outside, like it's a creation? Or is he within the creation, within this bubble himself, and outside this is nothing? It's a very interesting question. This will come up the more you think about. So we know that this space has been created. So anything that's created, logically, the being that creates it is above that, which means they're out of it. But Allah, God, is not out of it in terms of not being present. He is present within it and outside it. But this presence is not in physical terms. He can see us, but his seeing is not in physical terms of how he sees, what angle he sees. He doesn't see like that. Everything he created within it, he sees it, he feels it. He can touch things without having to physically touch. He is near us, as near as you can think about, but not in physical nearness. This is how our Creator God is. And so inshallah, we will kind of decrease our size of creation, but when the size of creation gets smaller and smaller, it doesn't mean that it's less of a miracle. The miracle stands out to be unique and as great in every single part of it. It never changes. No matter how small or big it is, the miracle stays the same amount, which is unbelievable and unconceivable to the human brain. So inshallah, we'll stop with that. We just wanted to discuss just the beginning, the bigger universe, and then in our next gathering, inshallah, we'll decrease that. I'll give you the topic for our next gathering. So the second creation that Allah decides after the universe is created is angels. And then in our next gathering, we're going to talk how angels were created right after the universe and why angels were created. So with that, we're going to send our blessings to the Prophet, the last Prophet and his progeny, who enabled us to learn these things in more details and to know our Creator in much more details, which would help us connect with our Creator. That's the whole purpose. So with that, we're going to send some blessings. In Arabic, we're going to say it, and then I'm going to translate in English as well. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Peace and blessings of Allah be on him, Muhammad, and his progeny.